quick updates from our last meeting. We went through the first reading of the redistricting process last meeting, and this next Wednesday we're set to do the adoption for the ordinance to approve the final map, which looks like it's going to be map E for those of you that are following along. We also approved some donations to help a few of the local nonprofits here. We approved an amendment to our agreement with Bird to do a 1 cent per ride donation to recreation, adaptive cycling and sports here in Northern Nevada. So that's going to help create some more opportunities for adaptive recreation in our area. And so those are kind of the highlights that I wanted to provide you all here. But if anybody has any other questions on any of those items or anything else, I'd be happy to entertain those.
Yeah, Ilya Urban for the record. One question, is that tomorrow for the redistricting meeting or next Wednesday?
Great question. It's next Wednesday, the 13th.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And it's on the agenda as you guys approving the ordinance, or how is it structured?
It's agendized as adoption of the ordinance, which is the final step. Yep.
Any questions for Miguel, guys?
Nope.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you. Do we have a staff report, Abby?
Yes, a couple of things I wanted to give an update on. As you guys all know, we have our community cleanups in the spring and the fall. So it feels like we just had them in the spring a couple months ago, but we're back in cycle for those community cleanups. So what those are is the city of Reno partnering with the council members to provide a day where you can come and get rid of your e-waste, regular waste, hazardous waste at no cost to you. So we do have 2 coming up. The first one being Mayor Sheevy is actually doing a cleanup with Keep Truckee Meadows Beautiful, and they are looking for volunteers, and that's specifically a river cleanup. It doesn't have the e-waste or hazardous waste, but it's an opportunity to come together and clean up the river, and that's on 9/16/2023 from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And you can sign up on keeptruckeemeadowsbeautiful.org/volunteer. So that is a great opportunity to come out and do that. The Ward 3 community cleanup is scheduled for September 30th, so at the end of this month, 2023. From 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Mira Loma Park. And that's where you'll have the opportunity to get rid of your e-waste, hazardous waste, any other waste that you may have. It is a first come, first served basis. So as soon as those bins are full, we will no longer be accepting those materials. So come out, myself and Councilmember Martinez will be there to assist getting rid of those items. And if you cannot make it to this one, there are other community cleanups. You don't have to go to the Ward 3 one specifically. There are different ones going throughout the rest of the month, going into October, and those can be found on reno.gov/community cleanups. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Cool. And actually, Ilya Urban for the record, council member, can I actually ask, I'm kind of curious about, I realize I should have asked this just when you mentioned redistricting. What does it look like for Ward 3 now, as far as how different the boundaries are going to be?
It did move the northern boundary south to about the street name is slipping me right now, but it's basically 2nd and Mill Street, and then it turns to Ralston, and then it comes down through Plumas all the way through Midtown, and then it'll head east on Moana, and then the south. Yeah, thank you, Abby. She's pulling it up. So there's the graphic. Thank you so much.
And we're
that
green.
Definitely helps.
Yeah.
Capture it, but so the majority of the ward, the center part of it, definitely remained intact. So we still have the Wells Avenue Business District in there, along with Midtown. The airport is still in there, along with Miguel Rivera Park, and then the northern, or the parts east of the Truckee River, Donner Springs, and then some parts just north of Damani Ranch area as well. Yep. So that's kind of what the map will look like.
And to be clear for NAB members too, as far as if you're actually in Ward 3 to continue to be in the NAB, that's not going to take effect until next year. Is that correct?
Yeah, these maps will take effect until after the election of 2024. And then NAB members will have the opportunity to stay on or move and try to get on the NABs that they will be living in after that point.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but that's definitely a discussion to be had after November of 2024.
And then people can look at this map just on the Reno.gov website, correct?
Yep, I think it's still on reno.gov/redistricting. If you go onto map option E, it's on there.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, well, we'll move into our business items. I think first, do we have a report from RPD today, Abby?
Actually, RPD will not be able to make it today, unfortunately. They do send their apologies, but I did want to note that they did send us the latest reportings from August 2023, and that's available to you guys, public copy or printed copy, sorry, and electronic, and I have extra copies as well for the public. So please take a look at those. I would like, if you have questions, I can forward those to the lieutenant and then bring an update at the next NAB regarding any specific things, because they are not scheduled for November. Well, we're getting into October, November, December, kind of the holiday season. So they're not scheduled for until the next quarter. But if you have any specific questions, please send those over to me and I can get those answered.
Sounds good, but looks like fire department is here, so
Yes,
I'll
they
turn
are
it over
here.
to you guys.
Yes, the fire department is here. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Dave Cochran. I'm your Reno Fire Chief. I have with me Chief John Mandel and Chief Steve Siebert. They are the two battalion chiefs on duty today. Just as a side note, we have two battalion chiefs on duty 24/7, 365. They are managing emergency operations throughout the city on a continuing basis, like I said, all the time. We roughly divide the city in half by the river. So Battalion 1 is north of the river, Battalion 2 is south of the river. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things, some of the highlights that we have going on in recent months here. And then I'm certainly, or the battalion chiefs are certainly available for any questions you might have, anything that you've heard, anything on your mind. Nothing is off limits. So I will start with just at the beginning of July, we had our latest recruit class come out, 24 brand new recruits out working in the stations. The exciting thing about that is that puts us at the highest number of firefighters out on the street that the Reno Fire Department has ever had, which is great for the community, great for the department. It's very exciting for me to see the department grow. We're an extremely busy department. We ran just under 50,000 calls last year. That's well over 200 calls per firefighter. Compare that to someplace like New York City. You think it's a giant city, they're very busy. They run about 115, 120 calls per firefighter. So we're nearly twice as busy on a per firefighter basis. But we're going to continue to work to grow our department and to add to the personnel ranks to provide the best service. In that vein, the other thing that we recently implemented was what we call a single role paramedic program. What we do is put paramedics on an ambulance, just two instead of four four firefighters that are normally on an engine or a truck. Those paramedics will respond exclusively to medical calls. They're not firefighters, and they will take the lower acuity, less emergent calls so that we're not sending four firefighters and a fire engine to a call where they're really not needed. It's part of our mission, providing the right resource to the right call at the right time. And this really does that. It's getting more people out on the street. We're spreading that workload that I just described among more people. So we're reducing the burden on the people that we have out there. And it's been very successful. And the cherry on top of all that is because of what we do, we do some transports. It qualifies us for reimbursement through the federal government, through Medicaid. So that program pays 100% for itself. It doesn't cost city taxpayers a dime. So we're very excited about that we can bring that benefit to the community and the department without impacting our budget or the tax base for the city. The last thing that I'll mention is we are in the process, we're a couple months in now, for the design and planning process of a brand new central station, which will be located right downtown here. We are probably going to operate 4 different companies, and a company like an engine is considered a company, or a truck is a company. So if you have an engine or a truck, that's considered 2 companies. We're so busy downtown, we'll probably operate 4 out of that station. It'll house 4 to 5 companies, be close to 70,000 square feet, and it's going to serve the core of downtown Reno, which is our busiest district, as you might imagine. It's kind of a blessing and a curse. We've been recognized as being in the top 5 busiest engines in the nation for our downtown engine, which, it's great that we're out doing the job, but it's also a burden because that's a lot of work. But the men and women of the Reno Fire Department, don't complain. They put their heads down. They do a great job, and they're highly motivated. I'm happy to say that, you know, we have a ton of up and coming young members of the department who are really embracing the department and taking it as their own and getting engaged and really moving the department forward. So it's a very exciting time. With that, I would open it up for any questions. Like I said, nothing's off limit. You're curious, heard a rumor, let me know.
I do have a question,
Sure.
and it's a little bit unrelated to what you're talking about, but is related to fire science. I know the Academy of Arts, Careers and Technology has a fire science department now for kids in school, being able to learn the basics of firefighting. My own son was a firefighter explorer in San Jose, California. And I was wondering if the fire department has ever entertained a program such as that. I know that they had a graduating class in his academy of, I think, 20. So has any interest of that come up in the community?
It was like you were shadowing me today on my rounds. We have a number of, well, I consider all our firefighters excellent, but some really shining stars that went through Explorer programs. And I met with two of them today because they want to start one here. We're actually going to be kicking that off October 11, taking applications. We're working in partnership with the Boy Scouts, and we want to bring those young individuals in the community who might have an interest, might have an aptitude. One of the things I talk a lot about is there's a lot of people out there that would be a good fit for the fire department, but maybe they don't know about it or they don't know how to get involved. The Explorer program is one of those things that we're doing to get them involved. So yeah, in about a month, we're going to be announcing that. And like I said, those are a couple of the, well, there's more. I met with two, but there's about 20 people who are involved. And that's part of that group of highly motivated people that are putting their arms around the department and moving it forward. So you bet.
Ilya Arman for the record, just a clarifying question too. You mentioned transport earlier being reimbursed by Medicaid. Can you elaborate? Do you mean like if somebody needs like an emergency transport to the hospital, or what does that mean?
Yes, absolutely. So that the paramedic program, they do respond in ambulances. Just as to put it in context, REMSA is the ambulance transport provider for Reno. They have a franchise through the District Board of Health under a cooperative agreement with Sparks, Reno, and the county. So they are responsible for all transports, but like, you know, they're one of our community partners. Like all of our community partners, including us, at times you get overwhelmed and you just don't have the capacity. So now we have that, we call it surge capacity. When they run out of resources, we can step in, bridge that gap until they can catch up. So yeah, we do some emergency transports when requested or when needed.
And those, like you said, they're funded federally somehow?
Yes. It's a program. It's called GEMT, Ground Emergency Medical Transport, and it's very complicated, and I don't pretend to understand it, the calculation that goes into generating the reimbursement number. But they basically recognize because Medicaid pays so little for the actual transport, but there's a huge overhead component to what we do between stations and equipment and everything we do. Medicaid has recognized we're not really fairly reimbursing government entities for what they're doing, for the service they're providing. So it's kind of a mechanism to repay us for the overhead for the transports that we do.
Okay. And then just kind of, because you've mentioned a few times sort of how busy, you know, Reno Fire is specifically, is there kind of any thoughts as to why that's the case?
Part of it is the intense tourist population, and by intense I mean the large tourist population. We have 260 some odd thousand in the city, but that doesn't truly reflect the number of people who are coming here, recreating, visiting, doing whatever. So our effective population is much higher than that. So we're in this concentrated area where we input a lot of additional people, and I don't mean this in a pejorative way. They come, they don't necessarily have resources. They don't have they don't have a local doctor in Reno, right? They don't necessarily know where the hospital is. Something happens they're not prepared for, 911 is the answer.
Shonda Golden for the record. What type of fires do you get called on? I mean, I see the fire trucks, but I don't really know where they're going.
We are what I refer to, what the industry refers to as an all-risk department. So we go on everything, every type of fire. I say when people call 911 and the dispatcher will say medical, police, or fire. If it's not medical or police, everything else is fire, even though it's not fire. So we are the ones who go out. We respond to just an incredible variety of calls, including fires, and we handle it. We don't have the option to say no, and we don't. We're highly motivated, but we do everything from, you know, an accidental rubbish fire to a full-on structure fire, multi-story high-rise. We actually are also involved in the wildland community. In fact, Steve heads up that program for us. We have resources spread out. Some of them are back now, but just a week or so ago, we were in California, Oregon, Montana, Idaho, Utah, and Alaska on wildfires. So we send that out. We send those resources out, and by resources, it can be people and equipment. And in return, when we need help here in Reno, we ask for help and we get it as well. So
Okay, thank you.
certainly.
Marie Rodriguez for the record. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you are a fire department, but that is not the limit of the calls you go for. I mean, I know for accidents, you're there for hazmat. So you go to hazmat calls, and you do, because from what I understand, you have, even though you do have a paramedic unit now in ambulances, aren't most of your firefighters, EMTs, or paramedics as well. So they also respond to accidents if there's like airbag deployment, fluids, and so forth. So not all the calls for service are necessarily fire related.
That's correct. And that kind of goes to your question as well. With that all risk component, about of those 50,000 calls, about 65% are medical calls. So, and we, again, cover the whole spectrum. We have paramedic level service, which is the highest level of service that you see out in the field, but we go to everything. You identified hazmat, we go to the wildfires that are any type of fire. We go to vehicle accidents, we go to technical rescues, water rescues. We have a water rescue team. You know, we're unique here in Northern Nevada because we have the mountains to the west, a lot of space to the east, and basically nothing to the north or south. So if there's an emergency, we have to be able to deal with it. And so we have the full spectrum of special teams, and in addition to what you might consider the routine fire calls. We literally can handle it all. Not that we don't need help. Sometimes we do. All our community partners do, but we are very well equipped and well trained to handle pretty much anything that's thrown at us. And I will say, just for the record, this is the only department I started in this department back in '98. Worked my way up through the ranks, took one promotion too many, so I stand before you today. But I'm very proud of this department because it's the only one I've ever worked for.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time.
Okay, we'll move on to B3, presentation from Parks and Rec. And is this here or, oh, we got Nathan here. Okay, cool.
Good evening, Nathan Elliott, Parks and Recreation Director for the record. Chief, we're proud of you. Appreciate your efforts, guys. Just came back. I was here last month, 4 weeks ago, to talk about our PROS plan, where it is in the process. PROS stands for Parks, Recreation, and Open Space, which I generally forget to announce when I come up here. So wanted to bring that forward. So there is a website that we're asking people to utilize and view the plan over the next, well, it's been over the past month, so we're getting ready to wind it down, but wanted to make sure officially we came to this group and shared what the plans come up with and what needs it's identified, and to take you through the website. So we'll do that here for a few minutes. So Abigail has been doing this tirelessly on my tour of the NAB committee. So she'll do it at least one more time for me. So on the left side there, besides a great picture, you can see about, so as she scrolls down, you'll see what the plan is about and what we're trying to accomplish. Just some brief notes. It hasn't been updated since 2008, so it's been a while, long overdue. Many, unfortunately, because of when it was updated last, it went right into the Great Recession, and so many of those things weren't accomplished. So a lot of the findings from this time reflect what we found out 15 years ago. So that's too bad, but we're here and we need to find out how we do better through this next process. So a little video there with some of our staff and some of the programs, and then our guide for parks and recreation activities there as well. So giving people an example of what we currently have as you go into what we hope to have for a vision document for the future. So going back up to the top, it talks a little bit about the planning process on the next link. And it tells you about where we are in the process. As you see where we are, and then go into our vision and guiding principles and goals, developing the plan. And then now we're in phase 4, finalizing that plan, which will include a implementation document and strategy, so that not only do we know we don't have things, we can figure out how we want to get them. And that's the real key component with this conversation is we got a lot of public feedback up front to say, hey, what do you like to do? What is it in our parks when we ask the public that you do participate in, you'd like to see more of, you feel there's a shortcoming in. Now that we've discovered all of those things, we can do anything, but we can't do everything. So what are the things that we want to start doing first as we take a bite of this elephant over the next, 5 years of this plan? Whoops, I touched a button, sorry. All right, and go back up. And so this one will show a link to the plan in English and Spanish. Actually, go ahead and hit English, but it shows the slideshow, I believe, is in English and Spanish. So this just gives a brief overview of it, and I'll take you through some of these slides. We won't spend a lot of time on any one in particular, but if it generates any questions, we can go through those. So this is the presentation that the council members have seen as a part of a one-on-one with the consultants, Stantec and Citygate. So go to the next, go 2 slides over. So this is talking about our assessment methodology, that we didn't just say like, hey, this is the national standard and we need all of those things, because we may not need a bunch of beaches or a bunch of beach services. But a national standard might say we need 80 acres of beach services. So we're not going to do things just solely based on that, but it is a benchmark across the country of what cities our size would have as part of their inventory. Also our resources, analyzing what we currently have, what the condition is of those resources to see if we need to put them in a better place from a maintenance standpoint. And then also find out what people are using. If the things that we have are not what people really want or would use more of, we're also comparing that. But we're not doing all of one of those assessment methodologies. So it's kind of a 3-legged stool to support what our findings are and to make recommendations to council. Next one. This is you'll see this if you get time to go through the document, you'll see a lot of data that talks about where we are as far as our standards versus the national standard and versus our population, also incorporating in county parks and schools as a part of our inventories as well. Another one, please. And here were our big findings from the community. Number 1 was improve what we currently have. We all have some great spaces. There's some parks that are super unique and have great views of the city, have great shade and trees and things like that. But then some of our paths are busted up or our slides need replacement and things like that. So improving our maintenance structure for our parks and facilities was the number 1 feedback thing we received. Along with that, of course, is opening new things, new parks, new aquatics. Our biggest need is flat fields. With flat fields, we can do a lot of things. We can do events, we can do sports, we can do kite flying, all sorts of different things, just open space. And we have a significant shortage, both against the national standard and against the need of our community. So that was pretty clear back in 2008. And that's one of those things that we haven't been able to do a lot of as we've moved forward in the process. And then right there behind it is aquatics facilities and then trails. People love to get out, especially while you can, and see our beautiful outdoors. So, and then number 3 is providing equitable access to parks. As the city's grown very quickly, some of the areas have grown faster than we can keep up. And so there's some areas with less parks in it. And some of those parks don't have the same amenities that some would in an older part of town. So they're not walkable, or they don't have, again, the same amenities, courts, pickleball, things like that. Things are just not coming as fast as people want them as the city grows. Go ahead, probably 3 slides. One more. And so these are some of the goals. Number 1, the big hurdle to doing anything is money. So a big part of this plan and the implementation is, how do we look at all of the resources we can get? It's hard to fight with public safety. It's hard to argue that from this position. So what are some other ways we can do that through funding sources that could be dedicated to parks? The plan identifies 21 different ways potentially we can do that. And we learn about new ones all the time, including grants, a special district to raise funds just for parks that wouldn't be impacted by an economic slowdown or compete with dollars for public safety and public works and streets and things like that. So there's a lot of different ideas, and that'll be a big goal over the next year or two, is to walk those ideas down and bring them to council to say, hey, these are the things that we could potentially do. Do you want us to pursue them? Or are we satisfied where we're at? We got to have those conversations, and some of those will be tough conversations. And we need public input for that as well. So improving and maintaining quality of life, level of service. How often do we mow our fields for sporting activities where kids are playing soccer? If they kick the ball and it stops in 2 feet, that's not a great experience. So how often can we mow those fields? Which means if we can mow them more, then we can make the grass quality higher by fertilization, because if we fertilize it, it'll grow quickly. And if it grows too quickly and we can't mow it, then we're right back where we started. So thinking about some of those things with level of service, adding things that would make us a regional destination. The Truckee River corridor is a big part of the plan, not specific to how we would develop it for parks, but that parks should be involved in that process. We've got some awesome spaces along the river. Natural resources, including our open space, to make sure not just in the trails, but also the spaces in between, homes and developments, that they're maintained and safe, but also usable in the different areas they could be. So 10 master plan goals that came out of that. So review those if you have, as you have time. Pop a couple forward, Abigail. So the big 5, I know there's a lot of numbers, big 3, big 10, big 5. So these are strategies that'll go a little more in depth in the plan and in these slides where it talks about some of those opportunities, as I talked about finances and how we could bring more money into the system. You'll see it broken down here in a couple slides, but improving our existing, developing and new spaces in the Truckee River, also adding different programs and special events that, bring connectivity to our community, and then also activate spaces that are currently unactivated. And sometimes that leads to negative behavior. So that's a big part of that piece too. And then really having an eye for the future. Part of the challenge with our rapidly growing areas is land. If we want to have great parks, we have to have good spaces and not just what's left over from a development district. So we have to start thinking ahead as a city and possibly purchasing our land ahead of time. And then, we might not build on that park for quite a while, but if we don't have the land, we'll never build it. So that's another one of the big things that we've kind of led or learned and are going to push as a part of this plan. So as you go through this, again, please review this at your leisure, but this is just an example of some of the strategies to increase funding to be able to do the rest of them. So if we can get over that first hurdle, we've got a chance to do those other things. One of the main things that they talked about is a resource development support person for our department that would be able to go for grants. You look at it as if we're comparing to a nonprofit, nonprofits usually have kind of a payback. You try to get your salary times 2.5 in the first year. So trying to look at that as a business function of, if we can bring more dollars in that would offset general fund dollars, then that frees up general fund dollars for other opportunities. But also exploring municipal bonds. Again, hard questions that we have to walk down that road and see what the city and what the public would support. Special park district will be another large one that we'll explore. Strategic public-private partnerships. If there's things that the private sector and nonprofit sector can do well, like maybe those are things that, again, we can free up dollars to do something different with. So anyway, there's a whole list of them, 21 of them in the plan. And you'll probably see me up here more than council member would care to, talking about all those different options and putting some hard decisions in front of our council and to make a better park system possible. So next slide. And then this is, again, ways that we can improve what we have. You see enhance the urban tree canopy as we are adding new spaces and modifying spaces. If you've been to Glenwild, if you've been to our river parks, the shade in those spaces are amazing, and they're natural. So it's just a great feel. So increasing that canopy, not just in those spaces, but medians and pocket parks and things like that to increase that canopy and that coverage. Add and upgrade shade structures. Shade will be a big priority. We're going to put $250,000 even in this year's budget out of the money that we've got to make our playgrounds playable. That's part of activating them. It's awesome to build a cool playground, but if no one wants to be outside in the summer because their kids are grabbing hot metal and hot plastic, then it's not effective. So we got to figure out a way to do that, and we're going to start pushing some resources towards that. pushing beyond the minimum of ADA requirements. Accessibility for everyone is going to be an important part of that. We can't do everything, but we think that everybody should be able to do what we have. So that'll be a big effort as a part of this plan too. So anyway, you see some ideas there. Going on to the next space in talking about equity. This is some maps about what parks we have in what areas. That's the north part of Reno, North Valleys. Go ahead and slide. Showing the central area, and you can see again where the city is very mature and established. Tons of parks. Where it's not and where it's new, it's hard to keep up. We don't have a good mechanism through what's allowed through NRS to fund new parks. So we have to be realistic about what we can do with the money that comes from development. It's just, we're kind of hamstrung there. So we're looking at other opportunities there. So going on down to the south, again, you'll see fast growth, not a lot of parks. And that means it's hard to walk to, which means it's a challenge to get your kids and your family and folks out to those spaces. And there's just so many benefits that we're missing out on in those areas. And that kind of just highlights some of where, from a walkability standpoint, from a service area standpoint, there are some big holes in our park system. Again, in the fast growth areas, especially. That's the same type of a map in central Reno and then in south. Right. And then there's some different concepts for if we're gonna upgrade these parks, what should we think about? Doing things that are unique and not every park looking the same is a big part of this document. That's not necessarily exactly what will happen in these next slides, but we wanted to give people a visual element. Go ahead and slide through. Where it just, different elevations and color and things like that to look at. And in parks that are a little bit older that just need some, I call it like paint and carpet in your house. Like it's small things that we can do that can make a park feel new and feel loved and invite people out to see it again. I think we can find ways to do that effectively and with some of the funding resources that we currently have. So, and I think that'll get people excited about the bigger things we have to bite off in the future. So keep going. That's Miguel Rivera Park. The other one was Raleigh Heights, which is in the North Valley. So. And then there is a big component. Keep moving a couple slides. One more. And then it starts to get into, again, developing the downtown and the Truckee River corridor, looking at a lot of the things that we can do as investments, not only in our community, but also through making it a unique space to visit and be a part of what Reno has to offer in this downtown area. So this has a lot of those. Right now, there is a Truckee River master plan that the RFP is just kind of getting going right now. So we will be incorporating parks into that. And that's basically what the document is saying is, hey, consider parks in all the planning that we do, consider parks, consider connectivity to parks as a piece of that. And that's what this is doing in this space too. So pop through a couple. Keep going. Yeah, we can skip through this part. This is just giving some renderings and things like that. Go ahead. And most of this, again, will be done through the Truckee River Master Plan. So just ideas. Okay, and then this gets into reviewing our programming and expanding programming where it's needed. This will be a part of every 2 years. The plan recommends and will recommend what we do a needs assessment, not just for spaces, but also for programming and activity to make sure that what was important 2 years ago remains important and that we're effectively checking things off to make sure, yes, that was something that people wanted and they have supported for the last 2 years. And so we don't keep doing things that nobody's behind and it's not reflective of the current trends in not only recreation, but in usage for our city. We want to be smart about what limited resources we have. So this talks about it, looking for partnerships, as I said before, and making sure that we're creating sustainable programs in the areas there, but still remaining accessible in areas where there are challenges from a financial standpoint. Hit the next one. And then this talks again about the land. So just breaks down those kind of big fives about, hey, as we go forward, let's not forget these things so that we don't end up in the same place in 15 years. The plan is to update this every 5 years along with those assessments to make sure again that there's both accountability for the staff that are here that we're following the document, and that's why adoption and recommendation from groups like this and our Recreation and Parks Board should come with accountability for at least asking the questions. We got to present the solutions there, or a solution, because we're currently living in a solution that no one's super excited about. So we need to provide some new solutions and then put some hard decisions on people's plates. So I think that's the last, or the next one's the last one. Yeah, so that's it for the presentation. If we go back to the website, the important part here, and please share with everybody you can, is we need to share our ideas. We need to share input. There's an online survey there in Spanish and English that allows us to learn what the priorities are, learn where people are and what they're interested in. How do they currently use the parks? Out of the recommendations that the plan has, what would you prioritize, to make sure that what we learned when this program started, or when this plan started and we went through public input, is that still the same thing? Are those still the same important things? And then picking all that applies for the funding resources, what people would be supportive of. It'll let us know, hey, if this is something that people generally supported as an idea, let's start there, rather than let's raise taxes. Let's start with some creative ideas and explore those things as a part of those things while we walk down, what are longer election cycle type of solutions as well. So, and then the next question is, pick your top 3 of amenities that you think we need more of, or that you use currently. So we want to see, and again, make sure that what people are wanting is what we'll prioritize. All right, another thing here. What do they want to see considered as part of the downtown and the river? And program ideas, what's important to the folks as far as programming in our spaces. Last thing is, what types of parks are people looking at? You're starting to see a national trend is that the smaller parks, the walkable parks, are done as a part of development. The developer will build it, the HOAs will maintain it. And cities are trying to get the best bang for their buck with larger parks, maintenance being a big concern. If we have, 100 little parks and we have to load up and unload at every park, we just don't get the same bang for our buck versus a 100-acre park where we can set a crew up and really maintain that space at a high level and get a lot of people out for that. So there's been just this kind of shift in balance of how parks have worked in a lot of spaces around the country. So, all right. And then just general feedback. All right, and if there's any questions, I'm here as long as they'll let me be, but for your questions, but please refer for folks to the website, take the survey, give us that feedback. It will help us as we go through things to know that at whatever feedback we get, we can kind of feel confident about the direction that we're going. So, and that the public will generally be supportive. So anyway, that's it. Any questions that I can answer?
Shonda Golden for the record. I have 2 questions.
Sure.
So how do you decide which park to put the most funds in? I mean, do you have I've got 5 parks now, I'm gonna start with this park first. What's that process look like?
So I think as far as in relation to the pros plan, it's going to come forward as a presentation to our Recreation and Parks Commission. So we have about 10 years of projects at our current funding level that we would need to get through. And so they're kind of prioritized on a lot of things. Safety is obviously number 1 as far as repairing and maintenance. If it's a new park, it really comes down to what's the funding source. So as there's been new development in the northern and southern areas, we have a RCT. I'm going to mess it up. Residential construction tax. Thank you. Ding, ding, ding. That's what it is. Residential construction tax. We get $1,000 per home that's built, and that goes into a fund and is not necessarily ward specific, but it does kind of reflect the wards in recreation districts and parks districts. And that allows us to build and add amenities in existing parks. So part of it is this funding, part of it's safety, and then part of it is where is it on the list of replaced and maintenance items. So I don't know if that answers your questions. As far as new parks, if we're going to build any significant new parks, we're going to have to go through those 21 options, including probably bond initiatives to build anything significant. So RCT, just to give you an example, a park was built in 2008 in DeMonte Ranch for $4 million. Our largest fund right now is at about 5.5 million. So, and that was again, 15 years ago, nothing's cheaper. There's not going to be enough just from residential construction tax to build new parks. So we're going to have to, again, make decisions as a city, and this body that sits up here is going to have to make decisions about what's going to happen in the next generation of parks.
Okay, you kind of answered my question in regards to new construction. I know that new construction, typically what they will do is they'll build a new park, right? And I was wondering if maybe we take away from that some of that money and say, we don't need a park there, put money towards existing parks.
Yeah, and I think RCT allows us to do some of that. So we're gonna be asking some questions about, as we see this need, whether it's pickleball courts, bocce ball, dog parks, splash pads, shade, things like that. RCT, the construction tax, allows us to do some of those things, and it's not necessarily a new park. So, and if we can work with our planning department to say, as you're approving large developments, put the park in there for the HOA, you guys maintain it, then that doesn't strain our already strained resources on maintenance too. So we're going to try to be smart in all of those areas until we find those money trees that are planted somewhere, because for now we got to make do.
Okay, and what about the wildlife in some of these parks?
Yeah, wildlife, we mainly work with Endow to help guide us on those things, and try not to make any unilateral decisions when it comes to wildlife. There's a lot of things that need to be considered with that. So, but number one, again, if there's a hard decision to be made, we have to figure out what those solutions are and then bring them to folks to help us make those decisions and make sure it would be supported by at least a majority of the public.
And that's, what did you call that? Endow?
Oh, sorry, Nevada Department of Wildlife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nevada Department of Wildlife. I found out that at Teglia Park, some of the homeless people were taking the geese. I have a photo of it, and they were just taking them, and someone had one of our goose on a leash, and another one had in a baby carriage. And so for me, you and I have talked about Teglia Park. Everyone should know here, I'm all about getting that up and running again, but I didn't consider the wildlife until that was brought to my attention, and it breaks my heart to know that that's what's happening out there. Now the ducks are at risk.
Yeah,
And so that's scary.
sure, absolutely. It's a lot of challenges.
A lot of challenges. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, thank you.
Jarrett Singh for the record. I had heard that Detroit had set up a land trust to help develop areas that they would have considered blighted. And I noticed some overlap within Reno, where we have areas like where Jacobson has also bought sections of the city. Is it something that the city has considered to set up a land trust or anything like that that can help support parks?
I think it's going to be one of those things we have to walk down, including a park district and funding it too. I think it's easier to get people excited about building and doing and opening. It's harder to get them excited about, like, let's keep it nice. And so I think, again, we'll try to stay within those priorities of, like, let's take care of what we have, but let's not get behind for the future too, because nothing's going to happen overnight when it comes to building new spaces. But it's an excellent idea. Like, and that is something that is in the fifth big five when it talks about news part. Like, if you get to the point where you owe more money than the land's worth, you want to turn it into a park, maybe. So I think those are options that we can explore.
Cool. And I had another question about open space. And I saw some of those other cities had $1.5 million towards their open space. What does that funds, what do people usually do with those funds in their open space areas?
In other cities?
Mhm.
I mean, it can be anything from trails to, I mean, we have, I don't know if you've been to Sierra Vista Park, but phenomenal. Like, if we could really invest in that area and just show, like, that's not specific because it was a golf course that we can do that. Like, there's a lot of open space areas where we could bring recreation and activity to, and then better access to maintenance as a part of that, which, obviously wildfires are a concern. But they're doing all sorts of things. The Atlanta Beltline's got an amazing, like, history of the Chattahoochee River in Atlanta. So if you look at public lands and trusts, and just see what they're doing. It's pretty incredible. And some of it, they're just holding on to things, but on other sides, they're developing funding to put things into space and give it back to the people to use.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Are there any projects that come to mind that you'd be excited about to bring to Reno?
Oh man, I've got tons of ideas.
Maybe
Like,
top 3 or 1 even.
I love the idea of bringing, I don't know if you see it, but it's essentially like a gravity roller coaster
Mm.
that just whips people down through the open space. Like we have so much potential to do cool
Mhm.
things like that, dry luge type things. So yeah, I would love to see us do that. I really want to put and continue to help support the folks who are putting Sierra Vista on the global map for bicycling and including accessibility and accessible biking. Like that would be just an awesome space to keep improving and make us really not just regional, but global destination for outdoor biking and training and things like that. So
Cool.
those would be some upfront things.
Cool.
Marie Rodriguez for the record. I kind of want to go back to what Chandra was talking about these ducks being used as pets or something.
Yeah.
Who does that get reported to then? NDOW? If as a citizen, if we were out there and see that?
Yeah, I mean, if you see a crime being committed, call the police. I mean,
Okay.
and those are crimes. Like you can't. That's wildlife. You can't do that. So we also have park rangers. The coverage is sporadic. We don't have a lot of park ranger coverage, but if you see crime being committed in any park, call the police.
Well, I know that there was a report of somebody trying to take a swan out of the lake off a lakeside, that one.
Yeah.
And it was like a whole jurisdiction thing about who's in charge of these water fowl.
It is generally
Uh-huh.
the county does a lot of
Uh-huh.
the animal kind of law, I guess, enforcement. That's the
Okay.
first line there, but I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly which.
But it's
what
almost
happens.
like who do they belong? I mean, they're wild birds,
Sure.
So they belong to Mother Nature, I'd say. But
Yeah.
as far as enforcing their protection, does that fall under Washoe or NDOW or?
I
you know.
think first thing, just
Yeah.
call dispatch, call PD.
Okay, okay,
And if you see something violent happening to the animal,
Mhm.
make it an emergency call. I mean, I think it's appropriate. But they'll route that appropriately depending on what type of animal it is. But usually it'll be the county that enforces those specifically. But if it's violently and occurring in real time, just call PD.
okay. And back to the question I had, you just kind of added one to me.
Yeah.
On that survey, there's a couple of spots where people can fill in other. I know this is kind of a technical question, but how much typing is allowed in that little box? Because it seemed like it was only about a line long.
So I think it continues to scroll. I don't know. Do you want to? Abigail's gonna check it out. ASFD. So I think it's significant because I've seen some of the feedback and it's on an Excel sheet, it's 3 or 4 lines long. So I don't think it's 250 characters, but watch it be exactly 250 characters. Jay, please submit that. Still going. So seems like a lot. And then again, send emails, send things like that. We also have paper surveys that we've distributed at different spaces too. So, but did you hit it? No, it's a lot.
Mhm.
You can go for a while. Yeah. Challenge. It's a challenge for you. See how long it'll go.
Okay, well, thanks, Nathan.
Is that it? All right.
Thanks, Nathan.
Sorry about that. A quick question for you.
Sure.
You mentioned that there's boards for this for the PRO or
Yeah, Recreation and Parks Commission. It's
Correct.
actually one of the few commissions that are required, I think, in our charter. So it meets once a month and it's a great space for public input as people have ideas and would like to see things in their neighborhood. It's a great space to do that and present those ideas to the commission. And we bounce our budget off of them, our CIP priorities, things like that. And they've worked really hard on this document to provide feedback and get input and help share that it's out there.
would you happen to know how somebody can get involved in those in that commission?
This fellow over here. I'm identifying Council Member Miguel Martinez.
Yeah,
For the-
and I actually have applications
Yep.
on deck for board and commissions right here. as
There
Okay,
you go.
awesome.
It's a good plant. You planted him up there. Question, that's good. Perfect.
All right, thank you. I do appreciate all you guys, what you guys doing for the city. Like, you know, bouncing ideas off of what we're talking about. It's pretty hard to come up with plans where I do believe there's there's an initiative to keep on building new developments and keep growing the city and all that kind of stuff, and that's great. But at the same time, I do feel that, you know, we're not building the other infrastructures that should be going with the same developments as far as schools, hospitals, parks and all that kind of stuff. And I do believe, you know, that we can make it also a priority to have those kind of parks or those community activity centers and stuff like that for those new communities that are building. Because like you said, you know, we can build everything now, then later on, it's kind of hard to put everything, you know, in a Tetris type of way. Oh, we could fit this little thing here and there, where it does really do the due service it should be doing to the community. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Hopefully
Thanks,
be
Nathan.
seeing y'all in the future when we have cool ideas to present.
And we'll definitely check out, the website looks great, so we'll check it out.
All right. Thank y'all.
Okay, I'll move on to B4 here, the Saya warehouse.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Sev Carlson. I'm a lawyer with Kempfer Kroll here in Reno on behalf of Saya Freight Lines LLC. This evening, we're talking about a conditional use permit for a warehouse and terminal at 4850 or 4580 Mill Street. So we're talking about an approximate 11-acre site consisting of 3 parcels. We're looking to build a warehouse building of just under 37,000 square feet, and then also including a shop building just under 13,500 square feet. So the property is zoned industrial commercial. In the industrial commercial zone, you're allowed to have a warehouse as a matter of right. And there's also an exception on a warehouse for 24-hour operations when you're in this zoning district. What triggers the conditional use permit for us here is really the addition of the shop, that extra 13,500 square foot building that's separate. It's a different kind of use than the warehouse, but it's directly tied to the warehouse use. And that you also need the conditional use permit for 24-hour operations with that truck terminal. So it's again, the shop piece. So when we look at the property with the industrial commercial zone, everything to the west of us, south of us, and east of us is already developed industrial commercial property. Across the street to the north on Mill is mixed employment zoning, and then it has a master plan land use designation of open space. The property directly across the street, across on Mill, is owned by the Truckee River Flood Management Authority. The parcel to the east of that is the Ferrari Farm commercial pumpkin patch. The master plan designation for this property and everything surrounding it is mixed employment. We have large NV Energy facilities to the south and to the east, and then various commercial industrial uses to the west. So this is not what the proposed site looks like, but it's a standard Saya dual dock warehouse where trucks come in, come out. That is a site view. So this is an old agricultural piece of property. It consists of 3 parcels. You'll see the ditch that kind of runs across the middle of the property. That was for flood irrigation when this was an agricultural property. So that ditch will be removed. You do have the Pioneer ditch that runs along Mill That will stay there. You also have a ditch conveyance that runs along the west side to the ditch on the other side of the property line to the south. So all of those will stay in place to continue to move water, and the ditch company will maintain that. Just existing site conditions. Site plan. So we have two modes to enter the site. We have a section here where guests and visitors can come in, and you have parking, and then you have a fence here, and then you have controlled access for the trucks here with a gate coming in off of Mill there. This is the warehouse building, and then this is the shop building. And there's a fueling station near the shop building as well. Just a floor plan for the cross dock. And there's some office on the, it would be my left-hand side, perhaps thinking backwards, but over here is the office area. This is all the cross dock space. This is the kind of mezzanine upstairs of the shop, which again is offices, shower facilities for employees, break rooms. Another shop floor plan rendering. Just another view again of the whole site. We have landscaping that meets the standards, primarily up along the Mill Street corridor, including street trees, keeping 3 existing trees, exceeding, I think we have 43 total trees, 328 total bushes. Just elevations of the warehouse building. The various docks, and again, elevation of the office area again. More elevations. And then this is the elevation for the shop building. This is the lighting plan. So everything, is trying to point everything down, but to keep the site secure and well lit for operations, but keeping the light on the property. But again, we don't have any residential adjacency or any real residential proximity to the site, with it all being industrial commercial that's fully developed around it. And we can just scroll through these quickly. In terms of traffic, we had a traffic report that there won't be a material impact in terms of the number of peak day trips or peak PM trips. And we're not going to exceed the lighting maximum of 100,000 lumens per acre. We'll be under that. We have a fire station on Mill Street. I believe it's less than 1.5 miles away. We'll keep existing sidewalks and bike lanes along Mill Street. Grading of the site doesn't trigger any additional conditional use permit. It's relatively flat. And it's generally compatible to everything that's already around there. So happy for feedback. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Jarrett Singh for the record. I'm just curious how many jobs they're anticipating to generate with this project.
So it'll be 3 shifts. So 24-hour operations, 3 shifts. And you're looking at anywhere between 125 to 200 total jobs. Obviously, not all of those employees are on site at the same exact time, but it's through that 3-shift period. And it's everything from, office personnel, truck drivers, maintenance. So it's a pretty good variety of employees.
Thank you.
Marie Rodriguez for the record. Saya, I could never pronounce it
Saya.
correctly. Saya is a LTL type company.
Correct.
So you're going to have people coming in, loading up and taking off. Are all the drivers going to be local drivers or regional drivers? Is it mainly going to be day cabs or any sleeper cabs coming in and out?
All of these are day cabs, so it's almost all LTL.
Okay. And looking at the plan, and I noticed that it looks like, and I know triples are legal in Nevada, and it looks like I've seen these trucks on the road, they haul doubles and triples routinely. Is there going to be space within that area off street for them to break down the dollies and remove the pups to back up to the doors? Or is that going to be done? Is they're going to have enough room? I've seen these LTL companies. I know those yards get really crowded.
Right. So currently Saya has a facility in Sparks. And this is a move to Reno. Mostly because the site, they can do more on site. They can provide better security on site. So to the extent you have doubles and triples coming in, my understanding it will primarily just be one trailer for this facility, but they can do all of those activities on the site, not off site. So there's no ability to do that on Mill, and we don't have any other side streets. We're landlocked in that respect. So everything needs to be done on site, and that's what the design provides for.
Okay, because when I was looking at the design, it looked like there's parking spaces. So those are for trailers on the yard.
Correct. So once you get behind the gate, all of the primarily those are parking spaces for trailers and then different types of cabs.
Okay, so there's not going to really be major issue with idling, which I know it's industrial anyway, regardless. Because with the LTL, generally they're loading like a 53-foot trailer, like some of the over the road drivers.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And all Saya trucks, I can't remember if the idle gets killed after 3 minutes, but every truck's fitted with that. So
Yeah.
you don't have excessive idling.
Yeah. Well, I sympathize with the truck drivers. I know what it's like to sit in a cab when it's 80 degrees
Right.
outside. You need to run your air conditioner if you're sitting there for too long. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Shonda Golden for the record. What will happen to the Sparks facility? Are you going to close that?
I'm not aware of what the plans are for the Sparks facility. So I'm just local counsel for the company, but this is a growth move for them of needing a larger space and one that's more conducive to being, they're a growing company nationwide, but Northern Nevada is one of their larger growth markets. And so this precipitated the move.
Thank you.
You remind for the record. So that kind of goes to my question a little bit. Is this kind of in response to with what happened with Yellow going bankrupt and that kind of filling that void for all those LTL trucks and all the business that's gonna be up for grabs?
Great question. I'm limited to land use and zoning council, so that's beyond any sort of expertise I have.
Okay, that's fine. No worries.
Thanks very much.
All right. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Clearly more to discuss on that topic, but not here. Okay, so notables. Come on up. Yeah, and I've been to this facility, so I'm excited to see the presentation. Yeah.
Well, good evening. My name is Sarah Tony, and I've been involved at Notable Music Therapy Services for about a decade in different capacities. But I'm here as the campaign manager because we bought a building and now we're renovating a building, and so it's kind of a big deal. I was just wondering though, do you guys know about Notable Music Therapy Services? Are you familiar with the Notables? Is this all new to you?
I am, but maybe, fill everybody else in.
Okay. Okay. So what we do is adaptive music. Oh, thank you. You read my mind. We do adaptive music for people with disabilities as well as music therapy. Really briefly said, if you want to go to where it says services, that might break it down a little bit and you'll get less sick walking through the building. There you go. If you can scroll down a little bit. Okay, so these are the programs that we offer. Adaptive music, like I said, I think it's pretty easy for people to understand if you have a disability or some sort of life circumstance that makes it hard for you to participate in music. or dance, then we're a place where people can participate. Like we've had stories, basic things where like a child 6 years old with autism really wanted to be a ballet dancer, and there's no ballet classes in town that can help work with that child. And so that's where we come in. So we serve people as young as, I think we've had music therapists work with infants 6 months old, and then we also work toward all the way to the end of life. Music is one of those things that if you spend the time to learn about it and how it works with your neurology, it'll kind of blow your mind. But basically, music can be used as a hack to make everything you do better. It can lift your mood. It can help you move better. It can help you remember better. It can help you relate to people better. It can help you express your feelings. It can help you write your life story, all of these things. And so this is what music therapists do, is they're trained in how to help people live a better life using music. Notable Music Therapy Services is now 20 years old. And we started with 12 participants and 1 volunteer who is our executive director. She always tries to duck that, but that's how it started. And now this last fiscal year served just shy of 2,500 people. We were housed in McKinley Arts and Culture Center for years. And in that space, we only had 2 program spaces. So that meant if 1 room was being used, then you had to use the other. If 2 were being used, then we couldn't do any more of the work than that. And so, that translated into just always having a wait list that was sometimes 40 people long, 50 people long, 60 people long. Like people couldn't get services. So this building came onto the market. And so we went from 6,000 square feet to 17,000. We bought the old High Desert Montessori School, and we're in the middle of renovating it. And then how this is going to be working for us is that our programs are going to be housed in 10,000 square feet, and we'll have the rest to rent out to other nonprofits and collaborators who might also need a leg up as they're getting started. So the reason why we're here and talking to you today is because we're zoned as public facilities, because it was a school before. Around us, there's we're on the, I'm so sorry I didn't come with a PowerPoint that's as brilliant as the person who came before me. But we're very close to, we're in the Audi district. So we're right across the street, basically from Rosewood Rehabilitation Center. Rita Cannon is right there. The new generator is really close by, but like, you know, we can practically throw a stone and hit them. Like we're really close in with, so there's and then there's also apartments around, like Reno Housing Authority is right next door to us. So we're really well located for serving people of lower incomes, lots of children around there, lots of controlled rent, senior housing around there. So for us, it's like, it's the perfect place to be. Yes, so I keep talking. I'm not telling you why I'm actually here and what I'm actually asking for. So as part of this building, it was a school before. So there is about 1,000 square foot commercial kitchen in this space. Now, because of what we do, we don't need 1,000 square feet of commercial kitchen, but it came complete with all of the grease trap and the equipment and all of the things. And so in a city where there's just not enough commercial kitchen space to go around as it is, it would be a real shame to just tear it out and build an office. And so what we would like to be able to do is just rent that kitchen out. And what we discovered really quickly is we found someone who wanted to rent it, who I believe she was creating beautiful Ethiopian food to take to street markets. And then she couldn't get a license because we're zoned public facilities. She couldn't have a commercial license to make food there and then take to other places. So this is what we'd like to do, is we'd like to have somebody be able to rent that kitchen, have them be able to be for profit, do whatever it is that they're gonna do, you put that kitchen to work. Maybe that means some food trucks might come and use some of that space. You know, that's fine, whatever people want to do. But part of the real benefit for us is then that'll be around $3,000 a month in rent. And so once we're done renovating and paying off our mortgage, $3,000 is about what it costs to maintain our building. So for our future financial stability and just creating a forever home for Notable Music Therapy Services of great stability for our community, being able to put that space to rent or to put it to work is of great value to us, but it's also of great value to the business community that doesn't have enough kitchen space as it is. So so we're just asking for an SPD we're not asking for a change in zoning, but just to allow that one additional use to happen. That's it.
Ilya Arberman for the record. And do you know when you're scheduled to go to council, or do you go to planning first for this one?
We go to the Planning Commission first on October 4th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Shonda Golden for the record. So who would manage that kitchen, and how many vendors do you anticipate going in to make it profitable? I mean, would you say like, okay, you guys, this group comes in on Monday, this group comes in on Tuesday. And if so, is that 3,000 here, 3,000 there?
No. So what we're hoping for is just to not be in the business of renting kitchen spaces, because that's a lot of work in and of itself. We're hoping just to find one stable renter who can build their dream out of that space, and then we don't have to worry. We did think a little bit about like how we could possibly partner with smaller companies wanting to find their way, but we're all working at maximum capacity already. So it's like to find somebody who has one more bit of time to work on that seems hard. So the goal at the moment, or we have one person who we're talking to who is she bakes cakes and like cake pops and stuff like that, and then she would take them other places. And then perhaps she's thinking about bringing in some food trucks who are friends of hers who would just help her, you know, whatever they decide to do is cool with us. So we're just glad to be able to offer this as part of an asset to the community. And then also it's really funding our programs. Yeah.
Marie Rodriguez for the record. So just to clarify, because I think I'm understanding what you're saying, you're not looking for somebody to cook in there, serve there, or
No.
anything like that, but maybe somebody who has their own business or a family business that outgrew their kitchen at home or something.
Yeah.
And just needs a bigger space to do the preparations to sell elsewhere.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we don't have space for retail. And then we also didn't want to create traffic problems in the area. Like we don't really want to disrupt how the neighborhood already operates and how we're operating already within the community. So this is really just a place for people to prepare and then either sell or do their corporate preparation, catering, whatever, and then serve elsewhere. Yeah.
Cool. Sounds like a great idea. Hopefully the city's down for it.
Thank you.
Sounds
I
good
hope
to
so.
us.
too.
It does sound like a great idea.
Thank you for your time.
Totally.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we're reaching the end here. Do we have any announcements from the board? Any events or any things you guys want to let people know about?
I have a question. It looks like my ward changed where
Yes.
I'm at. So
Next year.
next year,
Yes.
okay.
So as Ilya kind of was mentioning in the beginning, we'll all reassess and readdress in 2024 once the election is complete, to kind of discuss where or how you guys would like to proceed in your guys' NAB positions, because although the maps will be hopefully approved in September, for the first meeting in September, they won't be in effect until there's an elected person in the 6th ward.
So that's November 2024.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
So you're safe for now.
For
for
now.
now,
Dun, dun, dun.
what ward will I be?
Um,
I'm Teglia Park.
yeah, so it'd be the downtown ward, so Ward 1 in the map. It's like that blue middle section. It starts kind of in this area and goes all the way to Teglius.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
Thank you. Ward
Uh-huh.
1, Jenny Burkus.
So it would depend on the election.
Okay.
Yes,
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
yes. Yeah, so it's very confusing because we do have sitting members and members that are up for election.
Okay.
Yes, but 2024, we'll know all the answers. Yes, so some of the numbers switched as well. So one is now, well, will be 2, and then one is technically new, but was part of 5, part of 3.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other announcements up here? Ray, were you gonna say something?
Oh.
I'd like to, for future agenda too, I think it would be for this question exactly. At
Uh-huh.
some point down the road, if we could also have like a redistricting, I don't know, explainer or
Correct.
whatever, that would be helpful, I think,
Yes.
for everybody. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes, and we do plan to update or give that information in the future, either as soon as the maps are approved or once it comes closer to kind of go over, and even maybe a case by case basis, we can go over what each of that looks for all of you.
Cool.
Thank you. And
Okay.
also, Nathan was mentioning his website. Is that just called Reno Parks website?
Yeah, so we can go and I'll show you guys on the screen, and I'll share my screen. So when I do every time that he comes, I'll just do City of Reno Parks and Recreation. Yep, and then we just go to Parks and Recreation. And you'll see here, provide input on the draft pros master plan.
Okay.
And there's also actually little pamphlets out here in front, and it has a QR code, so you can take those as well. It's at the top. And you'll do, like he said, keep going, share your ideas. Yes. So that is where you can provide the survey or input on the survey.
Anyone else have anything, future agenda ideas? Okay, we'll move into closing public comment. If there's anyone here who'd like to make comment, or anybody on Zoom, you do have the opportunity. Looks like Iris's hand is raised up there.
Correct. All right, Iris, I'm gonna allow you to talk. Perfect. And then go ahead, Iris, do a test.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Say something, Iris.
I'm saying something.
I can hear her.
Oh, yeah, I can't hear you.
Yeah, it looks like the microphone is registering sound. Hold on one sec, Iris.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna just promote her to panelist. I'm gonna promote you to panelist, Iris, and then you should be able to talk from there. It's gonna take a second.
Okay, great. Great,
Oh, no.
thank you.
Hold on one
Thank
sec,
you,
Iris.
guys.
It's your sound isn't coming through out
Yeah.
here. Just give us a
Oh,
second.
okay.
Because Manny's was allowed to talk.
Can you guys hear me
Hello?
now?
Hear that?
Hello?
Nope.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Strange, huh?
Because Manny was able to speak when I made him panelist. All right. Maybe we sign into the Zoom. Give us 1 second, Iris. Yeah, it is. It might be on her end.
It's registering my
Yeah, if you see
voice.
her little microphone thingy, it's registering her sound.
Yeah, see?
Recording in progress.
Iris, can you say something here?
Yeah, can you hear me? Testing.
All right,
Hello?
Iris.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to share a quick update. Back in 2022, One Truckee River received technical support from National Park Service that led us to a grant from River Network to support a process of engaging local community members in river stewardship and improvements. The group is now the Truckee River Community Advisory Team. They are currently conducting a survey to gain input from residents and river users from Broadhead to John Champion Parks. I'm happy to hear that the city of Reno recently allocated $3 million for the Truckee River. I look forward to the group sharing with the city the results to support the city's Truckee River planning process. And please reach out to me if you want me to send you a copy of the survey or learn more about the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris.
Thanks, Iris.
Iris, if you would like to drop the link or any information in the chat, I can also provide that to the NAB members and it'll be in the recording as well.
Okay, great. I'll do that now.
Perfect. Thank you. All right.
Okay, with no more public comment, do I have a motion to adjourn up here?
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
Second. All right. All in favor, going home?
Hi,
Meeting's adjourned. Thanks, guys.
thank you so much.
Thank you. So the next NABS meeting is,
August. No, wait, it's October. Yeah.
October.
3rd.
Bye. Bye.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye.